It Was Mame, Mame is the 18th episode of the second season of 2.5 Men. This is directed by Pamela Fryman, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I talk about this episode. We have some really great performances in this one. We do have some stereotyping, but for the characters, I think it worked quite well. And this is one that I remember really well. I've mentioned this before. I'm rewatching 2.5 Men. I used to binge watch it in around 2010, 2011, and then I stopped watching it, at least routinely. And there are some episodes that I don't have that strong a memory of. And then there are some, like It Was Mame, Mom, that I definitely do remember. And also, I know Mom sounds so strange in my accent, so I apologise for that. I probably won't say the title again. As I said, there will be spoilers from now as I talk about what happens in this episode. And it starts off in a way that on the one hand is really funny, but on the other, given Angus T. Jones's age, a little bit awkward. And I have a question, and if anybody's willing to answer that, please feel free to let me know. It starts off with Charlie, Alan and Jake on the sofa watching TV, and then Jake turns to Alan and says, "Dad, do you suffer from erectile dysfunction?" Obviously, he's seen an ad for it, and he's just repeating what he's heard. And I think this is a very common thing. There are many, many adverts that children might not fully comprehend, but they're not nighttime adverts. They are things that might be on during the day, and they will parrot what they're hearing. I'm sure there are plenty of things that I didn't fully understand in adverts when I was growing up. So I think Jake saying that is probably something that I think is quite common. But what Jake found out is that, well, they're for erections, and I think quite smartly, actually, when Charlie said they're for erections, that's not the word he used, but Jake said getting them or making them go away, which I thought was quite a deep thought for Jake to have. Normally Jake takes things at face value. But my question is, Jake then said, what's the point? They're not good for anything. And I have two thoughts here. One is, this is an example of times when I think Angus T. Jones was maybe being exposed to too much at a young age. This is one of the things, a common criticism about 2.5 Men, not necessarily from me, but in general, that Angus T. Jones was exposed to too many adult themes at a young age, and that might be one of them. But my second thought there is, it's a genuine question. He's what, about 11 at this point? Would an 11-year-old boy know the purpose of an erection? Because I have no idea whatsoever, because I was never an 11-year-old boy. And if anybody wants to answer that, please feel free to do so. I'm 3 minutes into this discussion and all I've talked about are erections, so let's move on from that. Charlie then gets a phone call and he answers it normally. He says hello, and then immediately he puts on this voice and he sounds very stereotypically camp. Alan's facial expressions, amazing, particularly when Charlie calls the person on the other end of the phone boyfriend. We find out he's being invited to some kind of party. Once the phone call is done, we learn that he's been invited to a cocktail party by somebody called Eric, who is the head of a big advertising agency Charlie does some work for. And it's very clear there that Charlie pretends to be gay to stay on Eric's good side to get more work from him. And what I think is a good decision within the context of the show is that Charlie does admit it wasn't intentional. It's just as he was spending time around Eric, he seems to pick up on some of his mannerisms, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So had Charlie consciously set out to deceive Eric, I think that wouldn't have been the best idea for the episode. But because he kind of admitted it wasn't ever intentional, it makes it a little bit less awkward. He then tells Alan that he's going to this cocktail party with him to be his date, and the weird thing is that, at least I think it's weird, Alan didn't have a problem with going as his brother's date. Granted, he wouldn't have admitted he was his brother, but his problem wasn't that he would be pretending to be his brother's lover. It was the fact that he didn't want to pretend to be gay and deceive Eric, which I think is admirable, but I also feel like he should have had an issue with both parts. But nevertheless, Charlie bribes him, he agrees to go, and then out Alan comes, dressed flamboyantly. He looks wonderful. I mean, it's not excessively flamboyant, but compared to what he normally wears, there's definitely a little bit more fun in his outfit. Rose comes over to look after Jake, and then Alan and Charlie go to the party. And I have to say, John Cryer's performance was brilliant. Yes, stereotypical, but very good at the same time. And I really enjoyed watching him perform and kind of imagining what Alan would be like if Alan had been written as a gay character. I can very much imagine this is how he would have played the part. And we have some great interactions with Eric. Charlie calling Alan Pookie was slightly awkward, but Charlie's performance as well was really good. Not in the same way that Alan's was, but it was fun to watch the character. And then Charlie meets Eric's ex-wife, Pamela. Ex-wife because this was before either he admitted he was gay or was willing to come out as being gay. And the next thing we know, Charlie is shopping with Pamela. She's played by Lawless. And she is being very, very open with him because she thinks he's gay. And Charlie is still keeping up this pretense. Obviously wants to romance Pamela, to put it as cleanly as possible. And they end up in the changing rooms and Pamela's taking off her clothing and showing her breasts and asking Charlie if she's sagging. And it is strange. It kind of did make me think how somebody will treat somebody differently if they think they're gay or straight. There is no way Pamela would do this with a man she thought was straight because she'd be concerned he'd be ogling her and enjoying it, if you like, which Charlie clearly was. But the fact that she was willing to strip off in front of Charlie because she thought he liked men was just definitely very interesting. I don't have any kind of specific commentary on that other than it's something fascinating to think about. What I didn't like about this is that they seem to be going in and out of the changing rooms. They go back in a little later on, and Charlie ends up coming out with his zip down as he tries to show her he's not gay. And nobody in the store is paying attention to this. Nobody at all is acknowledging that this man and woman are going in and out of the changing rooms, and the man comes out with his slides down. It's absolutely ludicrous. So I don't know where they're shopping, but the security is a bit lacking. Unfortunately for Charlie, while they're in the changing room, Evelyn is shopping outside. And credit to Evelyn, she plays along when Pamela reveals that she met Charlie's partner, Alan. But Evelyn doesn't play along for Charlie's sake. She plays along to get something out of him, and she tells him they've got matching outfits for the Alzheimer's run that they're going to be doing, or the walk for Alzheimer's. And I think Evelyn made the best of the situation. I think she got some good stuff out of it, and we definitely got some comedy. Charlie also said, "I love you" to Evelyn. And I don't know if that's the first time Charlie's ever said the words, "I love you" to Evelyn. I feel like it might be. If anybody can confirm either way, please feel free to let me know. But it certainly stood out to me as being worthy of note. And then things take a direction I wasn't expecting. And this is when Charlie goes home and he says he needs a beer and to scratch his butt and all these stereotypical macho things, I guess. And the next thing we know, Eric is in the house. And apparently he turned up and flirted with Alan. And I wasn't expecting that. It's not the direction I expected things to go in. And much to Charlie's credit, as Alan pointed out, Charlie stood up for Alan. He basically managed to get more money from Eric by saying he'll forgive him if you just leave and give me more money, basically. But Alan pointed out that actually, when it came down to it, Charlie stood up for his relationship with Alan. Even if it was a fake romantic relationship, they're still siblings, and it was nice to see. We then end with the Alzheimer's walk and Charlie and Evelyn in matching tracksuits. And I like that Charlie agreed to go on this walk with Evelyn. He could have brushed her off. He could have not agreed to do it, but credit to him, he did. He could have also not worn the tracksuits. But I think it kind of helps to highlight that actually when it comes down to it, he will be there for his mother when she needs him. Of course, there could be behind the scenes things like she threatened to tell Pamela the truth, but I doubt that would have been the case. I genuinely believe that actually Charlie did want to do this for Evelyn, and he was maybe not happy to do it, but was willing enough to wear the tracksuit and do the walk. And it was a nice way to end things. As I said, it is an episode that I remembered very vividly, and watching it again now, I'm not surprised. It's a really strong episode. Yes, as I said, there is some stereotyping, but I feel like it works well for the characters and the personalities that they're portraying. So, in all, it is not a bad episode at all. It Was Mame, Mom is definitely an episode that I enjoyed.